used to smoke like 4 or 5 per day. You have to smoke, say, minimum 5 straws to have like a pain-free day. Because without it, you feel like as if you can't cope, like as if something's missing.
According to the latest police statistics, the amount of drug-related crimes increased by 11% last year. It's estimated that drug abuse is costing South Africa 20 billion rand annually and could pose a bigger threat to the country's future than the AIDS pandemic. Francis Hali is 29, lives in Nanda in KwaZulu-Natal, and he's addicted to heroin, or Whoonga as it's called on the streets.
I can say that around about 70 to 80% of the people staying in that area at Nanda use Whoonga. I can't actually control it, and my life's a mess.
Rocco and Francis have been addicts for 3 years, and they say that they cannot get over their addiction. Nearly 6 months ago, the Maharaj brothers were in exactly the same place. They started smoking heroin as teenagers, but are now completely drug-free.
What would have happened if you were still on drugs?
There would have been no life. You would have ended up in jail or ended up dead.
I never thought I'd stop it, always thought that I'd die smoking. That's how serious it was.
They live in Chatsworth near Durban, where it's estimated that heroin affects about 70% of the households here. Their addiction tore their family apart. Anil Maharaj is their father.
We would say to them, we wish you were dead, you know. It would have been easier for us as a family to handle that, handle the fact that you guys were dead, you know. So that we know they will be in a better place. And their pain and suffering would stop, and our pain and suffering would stop.
It's tough to say that. I mean, that must have broke your heart.
It still does. Because there's a lot of parents out there who don't have the means.
Do you have any concept of what you put your family through?
Yes, we knew.
And you wouldn't feel bad?
When you're smoking, you don't care. As long as you're getting your drug, you're not worried about anyone else.
Anil Maharaj has spent over 400,000 rands trying to rehabilitate his 2 sons and finally found a clinic called ARCA in Durban North.
Our program, we detox them in 3 days and they can go home and they must recover in their environment. I was very skeptical.
But it worked. The Maharaj brothers have been clean for nearly 6 months now, and their family thinks it's a miracle. Carte Blanche decided to put this rehab to the test. With run-ins with the law and little left to lose, Rocco and Francis volunteered to go through the process.
Rocco and Francis are 2 self-confessed heroin addicts, and they're about to try and give up their habit here at this rehab with the help of a drug called naltrexone.
Assisted Recovery Clinic of Africa, or ARCA, in Durban North is where Dr. Prakash Naidu has helped over 600 people get over various addictions with the help of naltrexone.
Naltrexone is a non-addictive anti-craving medication. A drug addict, such as a heroin addict, takes naltrexone. There's absolutely no way that he can get addicted to heroin. So in a sense, it's more of a chemical incarceration rather than a physical incarceration.
Naltrexone is not a new drug. It was developed in the 1960s for returning American soldiers from Vietnam, many of whom were substance abusers.
They initially thought that a drug that the Germans had developed in the Second World War called methadone would be a very good medication. The problem with methadone is that once you start, it is very difficult to get them off it. So then the US government said, can we develop a non-addicting drug that acts like a protective mechanism around their brain? Nothing else. You should not be, you cannot abuse it, you cannot get high on it, you have no withdrawal symptoms. And that was naltrexone.
Percy Menzies works for the drug company DuPont in India, who originally manufactured naltrexone. When he witnessed the drug's effectiveness, he felt it was his life's mission to help drug addicts become drug-free. He started ARCA in America and now runs 2 clinics in St. Louis. Dr. Prakash Naidu read about his work on the internet and through this started an affiliated branch in Durban. Naltrexone works like a protective helmet. It blocks the opiate receptors in the brain, denying the heroin access.
So what happens if you are on naltrexone and then you take heroin? Do you still get a high?
If you use heroin, you just wasted your money. That medication, heroin, cannot activate the brain.
Traditional rehab takes months and the patients are isolated from their daily lives. The protocol that Percy has developed takes about a week before the recovering drug addicts are able to resume their normal lives. Francis and Rocco are about to start the process.
Detox is done by intravenous therapy, and the patient is given what we call short-acting opiate antagonists. This hastens the detox process.
Before naltrexone can be administered, the heroin has to be cleaned out of their systems.
Rocco has had his last use of heroin this morning, and we expect his withdrawals to start pretty soon.
I'm very scared for the withdrawals.
Rocco is now well sedated. He will experience a bit of withdrawals, but it's actually compressing 10 days of withdrawal in perhaps into 2 days. Feeling good? You're in La La Land, is it? It feels very relaxed and very calm.
Naltrexone isn't only used to treat heroin addiction. It's also being used to treat alcoholism and opiate addictions.
Day 2, the heroin is still being flushed out of their systems and both Rocco and Francis are going through drug withdrawal.
They've put me on drips and medication and I'm hardly feeling anything. Actually feeling quite well.
Heroin is one of the most difficult drugs to get over. Although Rocco has tried to kick the habit many times, he's always failed.